Excellent.
All right.
Thanks, Green. Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to be here with all of you. As you heard from Karine and you saw recently, a few minutes ago, quite frankly, from the President, President Biden kicked off the first in a series of engagements to highlight the impacts of his Investing in America agenda. In addition to the travel that was described to Wisconsin and Michigan, he will have conversations on a regular basis with American families who've been positively impacted by the historic investments of the Biden-Harris administration. He'll also hear from mayors, local elected officials, community leaders, and others about how these investments have transformed their lives and their communities. And as a senior advisor to the President and the director of our Office of Intergovernmental Affairs, I work closely with state and local elected officials, with union leaders, faith leaders, community leaders. I've had the privilege, to make a long story short, of making a lot of house calls in communities across the country over the past 15 months or so, and observing how they've been transformed by this Investing in America agenda. You're well aware of the historic progress that the Biden-Harris administration has made in job creation, healthcare access, and so many other critical areas. Behind every statistic, I learned a long time ago, is a real person, a family, a community that's seen progress and seen hope. When I went to Wausau, Wisconsin, for instance, I joined the Thau family in front of their home that they've owned for over 40 years. And for as long as they lived there, they'd been drinking lead-contaminated water. Through funding from the bipartisan infrastructure law, they had their pipes removed and replaced by union labor, I might add. One of their young grandkids even helped switch on the new water service line. Thanks to the President, 3 generations of the Thau family now have access to clean water. No family should have to worry that the water from their tap will poison their kids or their grandkids. President Biden and Vice President Harris know that a fighting chance at the American dream includes access to clean water, and have made this historic commitment to replacing every lead pipe in America, in homes, in schools, over the next decade. In the Osage Nation in Oklahoma, I met a mom who had moved off the reservation in search of opportunity. She didn't want to leave, but she needed to find work. After our administration invested $40 million to deliver affordable, high-speed internet to the Osage Nation, she returned home and got a job installing the fiber optic cables that will bridge the digital divide across the reservation. She loves her work, and she loves serving her community. In today's world, high-speed internet is like water. It's an essential public good that should be affordable and accessible to everyone. It's also a healthcare imperative. I learned this from meeting a woman who runs a health clinic in rural Wisconsin, and explained that telemedicine is a critical element of their healthcare delivery, especially mental health treatment. If our patients lack high-speed internet, she explained, they lack health care, because for all too many people who don't have a car, it's way too far to drive. And as she explained, tragically, the gaps can have literally life and death consequences. That's why the President and Vice President have made unprecedented investments to connect Americans in every corner of our country to high-speed internet, so that a person's zip code never determines their destiny. In Macungie, Pennsylvania, I met with union members and company leaders and elected officials at the Mack truck plant that, thanks to significant federal investments, is retooling to produce clean energy trucks. For instance, they are manufacturing electric garbage trucks for municipalities that are trying to meet their clean energy goals. They even let me test drive one. I used to work on the back of a trash truck when I was in college, and that was kind of a thrill, parenthetically. But in communities like Macungie, one of the greatest fears that parents have is that their children will have to leave town to chase opportunity, to find a good job. These investments in Macungie and in other communities like Macungie across the country are changing that equation across America. Grandparents don't have to get on a plane to see their grandkids because their sons and daughters have gainful employment in local union shops, like the Mack truck plant. An IBEW member from Alaska told me a while ago that, thanks to the infrastructure investments from the Biden-Harris administration, he has work for the rest of his career. And his son, who also is now a member of the union, has work for years to come. I frankly heard the same thing yesterday from union members in Pittsburgh when I traveled there with the president. The sense of hope and optimism is indeed contagious. I was with Mayor Turk in Allentown, Pennsylvania, and he introduced me to the De La Rosa family, a hardworking family that was struggling to make ends meet because the dad had some health issues and was having some challenges. But thanks to funding from the American Rescue Plan, they were able to move out of their very small apartment that didn't meet their needs into a subsidized, newly constructed townhouse apartment that finally gave their family some breathing room. Their son David, who is 18 years old, gave me a tour. And his highlight, as he said to me, and I remember this like it was yesterday, "Tom, I've never had a backyard before." And he showed me the backyard. First time they ever had one. And by the way, he's got a full ride to UPenn, just started last week. And we're going to continue to stay in touch because Mayor Turk and mayors across America, Republicans and Democrats, have said to me repeatedly during my House calls that they have never had the opportunity to do more good for more people than they've had over the last 3.5 years, thanks to these investments by the Biden-Harris administration. And I'll note that business leaders have expressed a similar sentiment. As a former labor secretary, I have a habit of talking to businesses, and I always ask them the same question: what keeps you up at night? The most frequent response I hear these days is workforce. We have a workforce shortage. We have so much opportunity. We need to make sure that we build the skilled workforce to compete. That's undeniably a challenge, but it's a challenge beats the alternative, which is having no work. And one of the glaring lessons I've learned from my travel and conversations with these mayors is how prior waves of infrastructure investment actually created or exacerbated opportunity divides in communities across the country. The fact that American English has the phrase "wrong side of the tracks" tells you everything you need to know about our awareness deep down that infrastructure can divide just as much as it can connect. In my travels to places like Pittsburgh, Milwaukee, Buffalo, Denver, Syracuse, to name only a few, I observed firsthand how prior infrastructure projects from prior generations, like highways and bridges, literally cut generations of families of color off from opportunity, all in the name of progress. In partnership with mayors and state and other local officials, we have been steadily investing to redress these historical wrongs, including impacted communities in the process. In each of these cities, I've heard from residents who are encouraged by the possibilities these investments present for them and for their communities. Smoother transportation routes equal access to jobs, education, and healthcare, more green space, cleaner air. In short, reconnecting communities has been about and will continue to be about reconnecting opportunities. We want out of the shadows. That was what a person in Syracuse, New York said to me, referring to literally the shadow that I-81 cast along the middle of her neighborhood when it tore it apart. That's ultimately what investing in America is designed to do. It's designed to lift communities out of the shadows, lift the tide so that it floats all the boats, not just the yachts. President Biden has kept his promise to be a president for all people, from small towns to big cities, red, blue, purple states, places that for all too long were overlooked or left out. Because of the president's actions and the vice president's actions and vision, Americans all over the country are seeing and feeling a better, fairer, and more prosperous future on the horizon, a future of endless possibilities. I've had the privilege of seeing those possibilities, and it is indeed exciting. So thank you, and we're happy to take whatever questions folks have.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. Just on the Investing in America agenda that you were talking about, is there anything you can share on just how the president's thinking about these projects, these goals might have shifted, how he may be sort of reorienting himself since he decided not to seek a second term, for example? Are there projects that he is now viewing with added urgency than compared to a couple months ago?
Well, I think the president views every project with urgency because he knows that behind every project is a community clamoring for change and hope and opportunity. And, throughout all of these projects, we have seen real progress. I mentioned Internet for All. We're making progress through the infrastructure bill in ensuring that we are dealing with middle mile, last mile, every mile. And this work is going to continue. I'm frequently asked, well, can we do this faster? The impatience for progress. And so we're going to continue working with our agency partners to ensure that we can break ground on every project where we've moved forward and get as much done as soon as possible. But, when you're trying to correct a problem that is 50 and 60 years, the reality is that you don't replace every lead pipe overnight. It's not an on-off switch. But we're making tremendous progress. The president and the vice president are very good at setting benchmarks and holding ourselves accountable. The cabinet secretaries as well. And so we'll continue that work.
In your travels to Pittsburgh and throughout the Rust Belt, what kinds of conversations are you having with unions, companies, workers about the proposed takeover of U.S. Steel and what that would mean, and how is it informing administration policy right now?
Well, the president spoke very clearly about that fact yesterday. Well, he's spoken about it multiple times, as recently as yesterday. U.S. Steel is an iconic United States company, and in his judgment, should remain an iconic United States company. And so I think the president has been very clear on that and will continue to be. And our conversations yesterday with union members were very much along those lines.
And is the administration going to actively move to block that deal?
Well, there's a process underway now that is working its way through, and I won't comment further because I want to respect that process.
Thank you. So I've been talking to a lot of voters in battleground states, and the top issue I hear over and over again is the economy. They still feel like prices are too high and that wages and opportunities aren't keeping up. So why do you think so many Americans are either unaware of Biden's economic investments or haven't felt those benefits? And will any part of the Investing in America agenda impact voters between now and November?
Well, I mean, it's always important to understand where we were, where we've come, and where we need to go. 4 years ago, we were in the throes of a pandemic exacerbated by a president who got so many things wrong and so many needless funerals because he didn't follow the science. We were in a pandemic-induced recession that resulted in millions of jobs that were lost. And the president came in, and the American Rescue Plan is aptly named because it really did not only rescue the economy, but it rescued many lives, and it ensured that we could move forward. And a number of the investments I've described, lead pipes, internet, high-speed internet for all, these are investments that are well underway, but undeniably there's still more work to be done in those areas. When you look at wage growth is growing by more than the rate of inflation, which means now people are making more than the cost of living, so they have more money in their pockets. And what we need to continue to do, because people are living their lives, they don't, I understand this because I've spent a lot of time, at kitchen tables, and people don't spend the amount of time devouring politics that, some folks here in Washington do. They're living their lives. And the purpose of this tour, quite frankly, is to remind people, because I can't tell you the number of times people look at a community center in a city or a town and they were unaware that that community center got built in no small measure because of money from the American Rescue Plan. So, we undeniably understand that there's more work to be done, but at the same time, as people understand where we were and where we've come, I see excitement everywhere about where we're going.
I'm hoping you can expand on this a little bit.
Sure.
Is the purpose of this tour to promote policies that were already passed to build public enthusiasm for the president's agenda? And obviously you're a political preacher who was a former DNC chair, and I don't want you to violate any rules. But Is it a coincidence that the president is going to two critical blue wall swing states for the first stops on this tour?
Well, the first speaker today was Randall Woodfin, the mayor of Birmingham, Alabama. We're not looking at red or blue. We're looking at red, white, and blue. If you look at where infrastructure dollars, if you frankly follow ARPA dollars, follow every funding stream, you can't disaggregate red states, blue states. The president has said repeatedly, and the vice president have said, we are the president and vice president for everyone. In my travels that I described, I've been to Oklahoma, I've been to Texas, I've been everywhere where we are seeing investments. And the purpose of this, and it kind of gets back to the most recent question here, is educating people about what has been accomplished. People have a right to know how their taxpayer dollars are being spent. And a big part of this tour is to educate folks that your library that didn't used to have high-speed internet, and I've been to one of those libraries, and it now has it. And by the way, libraries are workforce hubs in many communities because that's where people go to do interviews. That's where people who are, don't have a computer at home go to write their resumes and things of that nature. Educating people, I think it's a really important part of governance. It's a really important part of making people believe that government can work for them. And so that's what this tour is about.
And just the Wisconsin and Michigan being the first.
Well, again, Birmingham, Alabama was the first conversation he had.
And Air Force One
Well,
landing.
I think if you look at the president's travel and the vice president's travel over the course of this year, when there's a hurricane or a storm, a weather event in Iowa, we were on the phone with approving an emergency declaration overnight. Same thing in Texas and Oklahoma and elsewhere. Storms don't just go to blue states or red states. Storms go everywhere. And that's been the focus of the president, the vice president.
Thank you, Secretary. I want to put two things together that you said.
Sure.
You said the purpose of this tour is to remind people what the president has done for them. You also said taxpayers have a right to know how their tax dollars are getting spent. So how much, can you account for what the budget is for the Biden promotional piece, or the reminding voters of what the president has done for them, and this Air Force One travel, the events that he's been holding versus spending that money back in their communities?
Well, it's minuscule compared. Look at the investments that have been made over the course of the last 3.5 years. They are unprecedented in scale and scope. And I can take you to virtually every community across the country, and we can take a tour, and you can see where ARPA dollars were put to bear, where you now have a new housing project. The project in Allentown, Pennsylvania, was ARPA dollars and some HUD dollars, and they were put together. And so I think it's really important for folks, and again, it gets back to her question of a few minutes ago, to educate people about the fact that government can work. There have been a lot of folks over the course of a long period of time who have tried to shake people's faith in government. And if there's one thing I've seen over the course of the last 3.5 years, and I'm also a former local elected official, when you're working with mayors and county executives and they're able, and you're working together with them, they're the people that get seen in the supermarket and and your local church or your mosque or your synagogue. And when you're able to talk to them and explain to them, here's how we're improving our education system through these investments. When you're able to show folks that, this bridge, finally, people used to talk about infrastructure week, but we now have an infrastructure decade. The Brent Spence Bridge is not an idle hope. It's about to break ground in the months or so ahead because what we're accomplishing so that they can see the fruits of their taxpayer investment.
Oh, don't do this. Not again. Thought I had this thing figured out. That's a longer delay than 10 seconds, 5 seconds. I'm gonna count how many seconds this is to get to what I'm talking about right now. It's 25 seconds. How that is not what I put in the settings. Stream delay is 5 seconds. Okay. Now, question for ChatGPT. Seconds. Response. What's up? Huh? Yes.
How's it going?
Oh, I'm just having a ball here.
Grab that, eh?
Well, I get one thing figured out, and then two more pop up in its place that I have to figure out something new. So
Call for any help?
I no, I've been online with Chat GPT all afternoon.
Hmm. Right now.
Okay, that's a good deal. Let's see here. Yeah, that's not what I want to do anyway. Okay. Settings. Where are my settings?
I love you.
I love you too, baby.
I'll see you.
Okay. Jeez. Settings. This is my channel settings. That's not. See anything. Streams section. would you go back already?